Hello, everyone. Michael Grassi here. I'm sorry, I was just changing my headsets. I was having some nasty static coming on before I came on here. But yeah, welcome everyone to tonight's Get in Tune. I am excited for tonight's show. It is a guest I've been wanting to speak to for a while now. As you guys know, every Wednesday, as you can see right there, is at the Wiz Comic. It's Wiz Day, as my friend Don Smith says, or Wiz Wednesday. That's a old style newspaper strip I do on Instagram and Facebook. I love comic strips. I really do. That's probably where my heart truly is. And I love every time I get to talk to someone who does strip work. And tonight, I got someone who I've been a fan of for a while and been wanting to get on the show. Let me bring on Donnie Pitchford. Hello.
Hey, here we are.
How you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm still getting a little static, so it might not be my headsets.
Probably me.
No, because it was when you were off the air too. It was something. So I don't know. I have so many wires here and so many different audio devices. It's probably something connecting with something else that's giving me a little static.
I understand.
Yeah. If you're not hearing it, then it's fine.
I don't hear it.
Okay. So you want to say hi to Dylan in the audience already? Hi, Dylan. Thank you for tuning in. Yes.
I
so.
can't read comments. I can't see them.
Oh, you can't. There should be a section I think that says
there
comments
is.
for
I can't see them.
You can't see them. Okay, it might be where they're coming from. Because you're doing this on an iPad, so it might be a little different. In
That's
viewing.
okay. It's
no,
okay.
no. I'm just saying I've never worked off this on an iPad from your end.
Okay.
I've gone live at comic shops through my iPad, but I've never done this. On your side. But anyway, listen, it is great to have you on. As I said, I've been a fan for a while now. I think I first saw your work through Facebook. And when I found out who was doing the strip, I connected with you because I like to connect with the artists.
Right.
And that's your strip, Lum and Abner.
Yes.
And we will get into that and talk about that strip in a little bit. And I'm excited to learn more because I am behind on it, and I do need to catch up.
Don't worry.
I'm behind on a lot of strips. But yeah,
everything's online. You can see it anytime.
Dylan actually asks, "Is that a Popeye comic behind you?" It looks like
it is. There are two or three things back here. Do you want me to talk about them now?
I believe we're going to get to that section, so we'll bring it on in a moment then.
Sure.
Because you told me, we'll get into that. Before we start talking about all the other fun comic stuff, can you tell us about what got you into comics, when you got into comics, who were some of your influences? And I know that's where Popeye is going to come in a little bit. So let's get into that.
I think just as soon as we bought a television set when I was 2 years old, and it was right before the premiere of the Flintstones. And we picked up one television station in Tyler, Texas, KLTV, and they were ABC affiliated, and there was the Flintstones in prime time, and that grabbed my attention. I had to see that. And then anything I saw in children's books, whenever I did see newspaper comics, I was just fascinated by that. And at an early age, I decided that's what I want to do. That I want to draw comic strips, or we called them funny books. By that time, we were living in Memphis, Tennessee, so we called them funny books. We didn't call them comic books. And I was seeing Popeye on television. I was seeing Walt Disney. I was seeing Walter Lantz, the Bugs Bunny characters. All of those that I would see would inspire me and pique my interest. And of course, in the newspapers, I was reading Dick Tracy, Snuffy Smith, Blondie. I could go on and on and on, but just whatever was available, I enjoyed in the comics and wanted to do that type of work. So I just continued, and I started trying to illustrate, trying to draw my own comics, and trying to draw the characters I saw on television, and one thing and another. One thing led to another.
Yeah, no, that's good. And it's funny. And I talk to a lot of artists. When I talk to, when I talk to a lot of comic artists, whether it's strip artists or book artists, a lot of them all kind of name the same stuff you're just naming. I know
Mhm.
for me, I mean, you were saying you were there when the Flintstones premiered. I was
Right.
born later. But I'm a huge Hanna-Barbera fan.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
anything Hanna-Barbera is influence to me.
Right.
But I love like their animal characters. So I mean, I
Mhm.
enjoy Flintstones and things like that. But
Oh
their
yeah,
animal characters,
I saw those as well. Yeah,
yeah, and
Huckleberry Hound and
they,
Yogi Bear and
yeah, Huckleberry
look,
Clock behind me there.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I mean, I probably got some things around here that
yeah,
tie in as well. And
yeah,
I bought when I could, I bought the comic books, or I had some secondhand comics that were given to me. I remember an uncle gave me a Fox and Crow, a DC Fox and the Crow comic
yeah,
book. Had no idea they were animated characters. I just loved the comic book characters, and
yeah,
that became one of my early favorites.
yeah. No, that was good. I don't know if I have one of those packed away somewhere under my dining table there. It's funny. For years growing up, now I grew up reading a lot of superhero comics.
Yeah.
Um, But when I discovered like Uncle Scrooge books, I fell in
Oh,
love with like,
Carl Barks.
yeah, Carl Barks, the
Absolutely.
Don
Yeah.
Rosa stuff.
One of my
Loved
heroes.
it, loved it. And at one point, I started getting rid of all my like superhero books. I would just donate them, sell them,
Hmm.
whatever I could do. But the books I kept were like were like Dell Comics, Woody Woodpecker, and
Yeah.
Beetle
Yeah.
Bailey, and all those things that were being put out because I just loved the animated
Hmm.
stories. So I have like a lot of Disney and Bugs Bunny and
Yeah.
Hanna Barbera from,
Oh, I do. I do as well.
yeah,
They were
from
my
those.
textbooks.
Yeah,
They to me that's what they were, textbooks.
yeah. That it's funny you say because I always tell people I've had a couple of professional cartoonists as instructors. One being Tom Gill, who was
Oh
best
yeah.
known for the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
And I also studied under Richard Rockwell, or a lot knew him as Dick
Mm.
Rockwell, who worked on the Steve Canyon strip. And then when Milt
Oh,
Kniff
okay.
passed
Yeah.
away, he finished the storyline for the year, and then they canceled the
Mm.
end of the strip. But so I had some pretty cool instructors. But I always tell people all my teachers are from every book, every TV
Yeah.
show I watched.
Right.
Those are the ones that taught me. They taught me how to draw. They taught me how to be
Mm.
funny. They taught me how to, do stuff. If I read a newspaper strip, whether it was Garfield or Beetle Bailey, I was learning
Yeah.
how to tell a story, or tell a joke. And
Right.
those were my teachers, and that's how to this day still see it. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
it's fascinating. Um, Now I know you sent me some pictures, and we don't have to go through all of them,
No,
but
just use what you need.
uh, but excuse me, sorry, I'm still getting over a sinus infection. Um, I'm just gonna open up the first pack of what you sent me, but I
Okay.
want to show something here. Let me just make sure I have everything. Um, okay, I know the ones I wanna show. So I want to start by showing this picture. Okay. It is this picture, one of your drawings from childhood. I
Yeah.
think this is fantastic. I mean, I think every artist, I have so much artwork from my childhood, nothing scanned in, nothing photographed that I could show on here, but I think this is fantastic. I love the idea.
Yeah. That is probably 60 years old.
Wow.
That was right after we moved to Memphis, Tennessee, and Superman was in
Mm,
reruns on
mm.
WREC TV, and that gave me the idea to have Superman. All I can figure is he's flying in to present a present to a couple of these characters I was trying to create at the time. It looks like one of them's about to take off in a rocket ship. But that was my attempt at Superman
I
at
think,
age five and a half or so.
yeah. Listen, it's a better Superman than I did at 5.
No,
It's
my mom kept all kinds of stuff like that.
that is awesome. I love the car. I love
Yeah.
there's so little, because that's what I wanted to ask you was how old when you drew this, and you're saying 5 years old, and I'm
5.5 or 6 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Something like that.
Just certain thought processes you don't even see. I've worked with a lot of kids, and there's things like you don't see when you work with that age group. One of them being like making sure there's enough space around to fit a tire, and doing
However,
that.
the back tire is levitating.
It's a little low or a little high. I love this. Is this supposed to be like a billboard of someone crying?
I think it is. You know, I'm glad you said that, because now I remember what that is.
Mm-hmm.
That was a series I was doing called Old Man Flyer. He was an old guy that built rocket ships, and his grandson was his pilot, and I think that's a leap in the rocket ship. When you said that, that reminded me that's supposed to be the sign to his business.
That is awesome, though. I love that you're. Sorry, go ahead.
There's no lettering on it, because I probably didn't get to ask my mother, how do you spell so and so?
Yeah,
that's exactly what that memory just came right back.
That's great. I love that you had such a thought process at 6 years old for that. It's just there's so much going on. Looking at this as a story, and I love it. I go, you're
that's
a
what I was
cartoonist
trying
at
to
6.
tell a story.
Yeah.
But there's very little lettering. Apparently, I knew how to. I think he's sleeping in there. I have to put my specs on to see.
He's got some Z's and some S's.
That's what. Yeah, I think his grandson is asleep. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I like this little. It looks like a robot screwdriver or something flying the. Or is that a light bulb maybe on his side?
Yeah, that is a robot.
Oh, I love it. This is so great. I want to see this, redone in today's style. And then there was this other picture. I just love I'm hitting the wrong button. Sorry. Of you just drawing as a kid. It's just such a nice. I mean, you look a little surprised.
Yeah, my dad caught me off guard. Yeah, that was in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm not sure what station I had on the radio, but probably trying to find the Beatles. It might have been WHBQ or something like that. But yeah, I was working on a comic strip, and my dad I think he called my name, and I looked up, and poof.
That's fantastic.
Still have that pencil sharpener, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, it
still works.
It's here somewhere. I'd show it to you if I could find. Oh, there it is. I'll get up and I'll upset the tripod, but it's right over there.
That's cool.
I think it still works.
Got
that on my birthday.
Nice.
I think I was about 8 years old there, maybe.
Nice. I like the shirts from that era. I really do. I sometimes think we need to go back and dress a little bit like that. although I don't know what I do with all my graphic tees. I have like 70 of them. But yeah, no. I mean, so obviously, you have some Popeye pieces behind. Tell me a little bit how. I mean, he has to be someone that you really love to be showing off his work. Talk to me about Popeye and his influence on you.
That was the first. And I know you have some images on this too. The first cartoonist I wrote to, who answered and was very helpful, was a gentleman named George Wildman. And that came about when Charlton Comics published issue, I think it was 108 of Popeye, which had some history of Popeye. And it went back in time, and George, it was written by Joe Gill. George did an illustration that was supposedly L.Z. Segar creating Popeye at his table, and there you see this vintage drawing of Popeye. But this is actually behind me is actually the original art to the cover. Which
I'm going to give you the full screen so that we can see it better.
See if I can hold it where you can see it.
That
very
is
large.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, very large. But this is the original art. You can see this is a V-Locks pasted on, and the logo is pasted on. And but I'll just move it up this way. Maybe you can see. But if you look at George's brushwork, I mean, he was a master with the brush, with a Winsor Newton brush. I can't do that. But yeah, that was George's work. You can see all the registration marks and everything for the printing and the color separation. But anyway, yeah, that's the original to that. And when I saw that book, I wrote to George and told him how much I liked it. And I'd been reading Bud Sagendorf. It was, watch me damage my original art.
Yeah.
So this is a Bud Sagendorf original from the Sunday strips. Boy, this is good Bristol. You just can't get Bristol anymore.
That is gorgeous.
But yeah, I can't see what I'm showing you because I'm blocking.
You're doing very well.
But,
you're doing very well.
This is a Bud Sagendorf original that his widow was kind enough to send me after Bud passed away, just as a memento and a thank you. But yeah, I had those in the background because those gentlemen were two of my influences, and then later on I got to know Hy Eisman, who also did the Popeye strip.
Yeah.
Until 2 or 3 years ago, until he retired completely from that. And those were just those were people who inspired me. And George would reply. He would give me advice, and I got to meet him 3 or 4 times, and we became good friends. And then later got to work together.
Oh wow! Really? What'd you guys work on?
We worked on, and there's some images in there as well.
I'm going to show the influences right now.
Sure.
I got to tell you though, you just reminded me. In the other room, I have a print of one of Bud's work framed. I've been talking about redoing my back wall to make it more kind of indie friendly, comic strip. Because my show's about promoting comic artists and stuff, and
right.
I think where that little what's it called? I have a lot of the Jose Garcia Lopez stuff up there. I think I might take some of that down, and because I literally have like 8 of his prints hanging up there. I might have to put the Bud up there. And, if I can now fix the camera. That's
the problem when you have to be your own crew.
I know.
I don't have any students. I don't have any students to holler. Tilt up.
Yeah, I know you've done video work, and we were going to talk about that a little bit later. I actually got to study video work for a while, and I did do mostly editing, but I never got to do a lot of camera work. I always enjoyed, being behind the camera or in the, back then in the control room and doing different things.
We did just about everything when I was teaching. But yeah, that's the cover there on the left of that image of that original art I just showed you. Yeah. And then that was George's self-portrait, which was in the issue. And I put that little composite together. That was the issue that really got my attention on the left.
Oh, we lost him for a second. Okay. Me? No, you disappeared for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back, I think. The one on the right is actually an unpublished cover. When Popeye switched from Charlton Comics to Western, which was published under the Gold Key imprint at that time, they switched to Gold Key. They hired George to continue, and that was the first cover, which was rejected for some reason. They wanted something different, and the art was unpublished for years until Carl Wildman, George's son, found it. And Craig Yo at that time was publishing the Popeye Classics.
Yes.
George had just passed away, and Craig wanted to do a tribute to George. Carl found the cover. He scanned it at high resolution, sent it to me, and I colored it digitally, trying to go for the same style that Charlton Comics might have had with the gradations in the color and so forth. Yeah. So that was one of the things that posthumously I worked on of George's, the coloring for that cover, and then I wrote an article for the inside of the book. But yeah, George was quite a guy.
Yeah, I have some of those Yo publications.
Yeah.
So I might have the one you're talking about. I'd have to go. Possibly.
That was one of the alternates, not the right word. there were 2 covers to the issue.
Mm.
Variant, I guess is the right word.
Let's take a look at some other stuff. So this is a
yeah.
Charlton Spotlight. I don't know what order they opened in, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's actually the first my first published piece after I left teaching.
Okay.
And that was an interview. First of all, it was published and edited by a gentleman named Michael Ambrose, who passed away last year, sadly. But Mike, for several years, published Charlton Spotlight magazine, which chronicles the history of Charlton comics. In fact, he and I were supposed to work on a book called Charlton Companion, which was published by Two Morrows. And sadly, Mike was too ill and couldn't do it. Anyway, the book has been published, but that magazine, I think, it ran 9 issues, and that's number 7. And Mike commissioned me to paint George, a portrait of George for the cover. And I based that on a photograph that I shot of George in 1994. And I tried to take a few years off and make him look as he did in the Charlton and Gold Key Popeye era. But yeah, that was actually the first thing published as soon as I left teaching.
Wow. It's a nice piece.
Thank you. It was done with acrylic paint.
I cannot do that. I look at this and this will happen throughout the show. I'm going to geek out at artwork, and when it's artwork that I can't do because I know I suck at painting, and the reason, well, here's the reason. I've come to for years I was wondering, why am I bad at painting? Why can't I? And I could do watercolor, I could do gouache, but that gives me, like with gouache, I don't know. It's there's some reason I can control those better. But I'm colorblind. I have a form. It's a shade blindness. So I see colors, but when they blend, I have trouble telling them apart. Oh. So I can't paint well. I've come to the realization because I don't see colors well, which is why my digital paintings are terrible as well. But when you see me color comics, specifically my own, it's just flat coloring on there normally, and they're bright colors.
Right. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually like that very much.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I said there's nothing wrong with that. I like that very much. In fact, I've gone back to using a lot of flat color myself.
Yeah, it's nice. I just wish I could do things at times to make my stuff pop. Maybe I'm going to have to hire a colorist one day, but not today. Let's move on to one of my favorites too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mel Blanc, I loved his voice work. And in fact, that was another thing as a kid that I would have loved to have gotten into, was voicing cartoons. And this was published by Ben Omart. And I think it was co-written by Ben and Mel Blanc's son, Noel. And I was commissioned to do all the little faces that you see on the cover. And there were several more inside. And those were all faces that characters that Mel voiced, including the Fox and the Crow, who were in there somewhere. I don't think they're on the cover.
I think they're they're
somewhere in the interior of the book.
They will get as I move on through the pictures, we'll find them. So we're gonna have to jump around.
They may not be. I may not have sent that. That's actually George Wildman. In 2014, later years of his life, and his wife had passed away. And he hadn't done any work for a time. He'd done a lot of work for Highlights magazine, and he and his wife had been ill. And I spoke to his son, and I said, "Is your dad ready to get back to work?" He said, "Oh yeah." So Mike Ambrose said, "Hey, you think we could commission George to illustrate a new story for Charlton Spotlight?" I said, "We can ask." And in the late 50s, some of George's earliest comic book work were of the Charlton Comics ripoff characters. You know, Harvey had Casper the Friendly Ghost. Charlton had Timmy the Timid Ghost.
Yeah.
There was Mighty Mouse. Charlton had Atomic Mouse. They also had Atomic Rabbit. And they had this whole batch of characters. And the originator of those characters left Charlton, and suddenly George had some extra work. That was his weekend work. So he did a lot of that in the late 50s. And Mike said, those are public domain. Let's bring those guys back. And I said, George, I said, remember when you did those characters in the late 50s? What? Yeah, you did. Did I? He'd done so much work he'd forgotten.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely did, because you can see his style in the old comics. So Mike commissioned me to write the scripts and he wanted hand lettering, no computer font lettering.
Yeah.
And George did all the illustration, and then I did the digital coloring on a couple of stories that were published in Charlton Spotlight Comics, we called it. And that was the first two things we did together. Nice. Then about a year later, we did an Atomic Rabbit, but we had Timmy the Timid Ghost. There you go.
I'm looking for the drawings of. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's the last one we did. That's George's pencils. At this point, George said, why don't you ink it? I said, really? So I got to ink George's work.
Which
and
is
he sent me the pencils there. That's the splash panel from the first page of an Atomic Rabbit story. And we also brought in an old character named Pudgy Pig back, who was a ripoff of Porky Pig. And then Brother George is George's own character.
Really?
And
cool.
So, I said, how about I write Brother George in there? He said, oh, that's great. So I think he had some fun putting that together. But, and that I was rusty on hand lettering. So I think I redid the lettering 3 times.
Oh.
But then that's the digital color. And most of that is flat, because we were trying to emulate the coloring style at Charlton, which in those days everything was flat, except they did do some nice airbrushy techniques on the covers.
Yeah. Wow. This is gorgeous piece.
Well, thank you. And sadly, I'll have to get you some copies of these if you'd like to have them.
I'd love to. I appreciate
the comics. I've got some extras of the comics and an extra. That was actually in Charlton Spotlight. I think it was number 9. Also in that issue is a friend of mine, John Rose, who's the current artist on Barney Google and Snuffy Smith.
Yeah.
And so he had a piece in there as well. And we did that because Charlton had published a Snuffy Smith comic book. So everything had to be Charlton Comics related. And but yeah, that was really an honor right there at nearly the end of his life to get to collaborate with George Wildman, who had inspired me as a junior high kid.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Well, thanks. It meant a lot to me.
Let me move on. There's another Popeye here.
There we go.
This is the Yo one.
Yeah, that's the one that I was hired to do for that series. And that was a fun dream come true for me.
Yeah.
That was the same year that we did the George Wildman cover. I don't remember which one came first, but I wanted to tell a story, basically with the cover, and do my version or my take on Popeye, and so everything was mine, from pencils all the way to and one thing we talked about before we went on the air is I still work traditionally. I still use paper and pencil and ink and so forth, and of course I do use digital processes to scan and touch up, and then the coloring is done digitally. So
wow, it's gorgeous. And I'll be honest, this cover doesn't look familiar to me, so I probably don't own this one. I'm usually good like seeing the covers and remembering what I own, but it's gorgeous. I like that a lot.
Thank you. Let's
see, did I show this one yet? Nope. So
that's from the Lum and Abner strip.
Yes.
That was the weekend or the very week. I had to rush that one in. George passed away, and I canceled what was scheduled for that week and did a tribute to George. And all the characters in Pine Ridge are in the Pine Ridge Library, and I'm in there too. I'm down there toward the. I'm a 12-year-old kid down there toward the lower right corner, holding a Popeye, the first George Wildman Popeye comic book I ever bought. I'm holding there.
Wow.
And they're all reading something that George did. And the crazy thing about it is a tree fell, wiped out our electricity for 3 days.
Wow.
A lot of this had to be done almost in the dark. Flashlights. I ran an extension cord to my car and plugged in an inverter in so I could power my scanner. And finally, we got our power back, I think, Saturday evening, and I was able to publish it at midnight.
Nice. Hey, you
So
got
anyway,
it out.
That was a tribute to George.
That's nice. I think this one is the Popeye I showed. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is fantastic. I mean, like I said, I think a lot of cartoonists I talk with will always kind of name Popeye as one of their influences. But I'll be honest, I've never met anyone who was such an influence to that, that you got to, number one, work on it, but also get to know the artists.
Yeah.
It's funny, I think of things when I was a kid, I never thought to write to any of these artists. Now it's different being on social media and, having access to them. It's a lot easier now. The only thing I remember is when I was in junior high, I don't remember what grade, in junior high, I believe, my father wrote to the National Cartoonists Society. And they sent me all these, and I still have everything but one thing. They sent me all these like brochures and publications, and there was this, I don't remember which syndicate it was, but it was like, I guess, a press kit from something they would send out, like a pitch kit, maybe, whatever. And it was just samples of the strips. And I went nuts looking through this thing. Yeah. The reason it doesn't exist is because I literally would trace over the characters constantly so I can learn how to draw these characters.
Yeah.
Then I got, I don't know if it's in close proximity to me, they sent me a cartoonist profiles book.
Yeah.
And it was oh God, they used to put out a book. I don't know if they still do because I'm not a member, of all the members of the NCS.
I haven't seen a book. They quit doing the book about the time I joined.
Oh, okay.
I always wanted to be in that book.
But that's where I started learning about cartoon, like who were really behind the strips and who were behind the animations and all this stuff. Like every member, I like studied that book like it was a Bible to me, and I got to learn about so many things that like my newspaper didn't get, or I'd be like, oh, there's this artist who I just discovered. I'd have to go to the comic shop to see if I could find books of theirs. And it was like, it was one of the greatest, books, and I still have it somewhere in this room. I'll still flip through it every now and then.
Well, I'm sure George was a member for several years. You'd probably see him in there. I'm not sure when he joined. Hi Eisman, I'm sure, was probably in there.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so things like that are great. Things are great like that are really great. I have some copies of cartoonist profiles stored away.
Who's in the cartoonist profiles? It was a breakdown of, oh God, I have to look it up. It was I remember it was a green cover, and it had to be from 8th grade because it was 1989. I remember now. Oh my God, who
you are younger than I am.
Yeah. It was broken down. It broke down someone's artwork. I can't remember. It was an artist I loved, and I remember just looking at his pages of how he penciled and then went into inks. When I find it after the show's over, I'll go around looking for it and have to send you some some images from it.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, so let's start talking about the strip you work on. But before we get
Sure.
into the strip, there's a history to Lum and Abner.
Right.
And let's talk about the history, find out, you know, who they were and all that stuff. And I'm gonna start showing some photos, and these are probably in the order you sent them to me. So I don't know if there's a specific order they should have been in.
I don't remember, but yeah, and I will try to keep it brief. What you're seeing here, this is Chester Locke on the left, who played the parts of Lum. He played other characters in the show, Cedric Wehunt, Grandpappy Spears, and others. The gentleman sitting at right is Norris Tuffy Goff, who portrayed Abner, a character named Squire Skimp, a character named Mousy Gray, and others. These guys were brilliant at doubling voices. And then sitting back there on the big console organ is Ralph Waldo Emerson II. Believe it or not, that's his name.
Wow.
He was related to Ralph Waldo Emerson, and he was named Ralph Waldo Emerson II. And he and his wife played the organ. This was a 15-minute daily show. It started in 1931 on NBC. It moved around to the Mutual Network, to CBS, to the NBC Blue Network, which later became ABC. And they were nationally broadcast and sponsored by some big-name products, the Ford Motor Company, some products you've never heard of, which are very hard to find. Some Horlicks Malted Milk was one of them. Postum, which was a coffee substitute. They were sponsored for several years by Alka-Seltzer, one-a-day vitamins, and so forth. So they were very popular. Usually 3, 4, or 5 day a week, 15-minute, what was called strip show. And this actually ties in with comic strips, because early on there was a program called Sam and Henry, which later became called Amos and Andy, which was a more familiar title. And they referred to it as a comic strip of the air. And they started calling it a strip show. It was just like a daily comic strip. And that's what Lum and Abner did. They were continuity, a humorous continuity with some drama from time to time. They inspired a series of movies, 6 films in the 40s and the final film in the 50s. And they went off the air in 1954, attempted some television pilots, but never really took off on television. But they have remained popular through old-time radio fandom. And that's the character, or that's the program that I based my comic strip on.
That's fantastic. Now, as we talk about, so this is one of the movies.
That's one of the movies, and that's Zazu Pitts, if you've ever heard that name. She was an old-time actress, comedian, quite well known in her day, but she was the object of Lum's affection in that film, 1942.
Wow.
Didn't get to meet her. I met several people who were associated with Lum and Abner through the years. And that's a still from the movie set where they're playing checkers. But you'd see from the earlier shot, they were much younger men than what you see in the films. They had to put on quite a bit of makeup to play the parts of the characters. Now, this is a gentleman that made it responsible, or who was responsible for my hearing the first 15-minute Lum and Abner show that I ever heard. That's Dr. Joe Oliver. He was a professor at Stephen F. Austin State University, where I got my bachelor's degree. And I loved old-time radio. And on Halloween 1980, he did an 8-hour marathon of Halloween shows. Wow. One of the shows he played was Lum and Abner. And that's the cassette. I recorded all these things because I wanted to hear them again. And thanks to Dr. Oliver, I heard a 15-minute Lum and Abner, and that's what started this madness 43 years ago.
Wow.
He and I eventually became good friends, and he I do an audio production with every comic strip. And I started that because I have some blind friends. And I thought, well, I'm going to come up with a way for you to hear what the comic strip is about. And so after a few years, Dr. Oliver agreed to be the announcer. So he is a professional radio announcer. He had a long career in radio and in education, and he managed and sponsored the campus radio station. And so he is now the official announcer of the comic strip audio, and so we've had quite a lengthy friendship.
That is awesome. That is awesome, and I'm going to get into that too. I love that you do an audio show, and I was going to ask you why you started, but I think that's great.
That was the main reason with our blind friends.
And
also,
I lost your audio. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
I can't hear you. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Uh-oh. Let me just check real quick here.
My mic is not muted.
Settings, audio. Uh-oh, is it me?
I'm hearing you.
I'm going to try another. You can't. Okay, 1 second.
I hear you.
1 second, guys. Okay.
You want me to do? Sure,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes.
No, I still can't hear you.
I should be speaking so that if I come back
in. Nothing. What is going on here?
Test.
Give me 1 second. I have never had this happen. My mic is working. Let's try this. Hello, test. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, how's that now?
Test.
Nope,
can you hear?
Still can't. Let me.
Uh-oh.
I apologize for anyone hearing me right now. I'm going to stop the share. My audio should be this.
Test. I need to keep speaking, so in case it works, you can hear me.
Hello.
Speaking, so
Speaker.
In case it works. Hello. I guess I could imitate.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to drop backstage for a second.
Well, it's live. It's not Memorex. I don't know what happened, folks. I have no idea, but let's hope he gets it fixed. I can stay around a while.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I still can't hear you. It might be something on your end.
All right.
My mic. I'm just going to check something here. Reduce noise automatically. Mic volume. Anyone in the audience, can you let me know if you're hearing me or if you hear Donnie speak?
Hello.
Help me.
My mic is not muted. I just checked it. I muted it and unmuted it.
I apologize for this. This never happened before.
Had me on before.
Donnie, try exiting the where it says leave studio. Try to leave studio. Oh, Sam says he hears both. Okay, hopefully he comes back in. I don't know why I can't hear it. So it has to be on my end. Hopefully he comes back in. But it's not even playing off my it's not even playing off my MacBook speakers. And that's the microphone. Let me check one other thing. There's no sound. Uh-oh. What is this? Here, that's my microphone.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I still can't hear you. This is really going to bother me.
Can anyone out there hear me? I don't think anybody can hear me, but that's several members of the Lum and Abner cast in a Thanksgiving illustration that was used in the comic strip. My mic is not muted. I don't really know what's going on as far as the audio situation, but I'm sure Mike's doing everything he can to get us back on. I don't know if anybody can even see this. It says everyone can see and hear me. So if that's true, we'll see what happens. I'm still here.
Nope, still can't hear you, man. It's funny because the audience can hear both of us.
Really?
But I can't hear anything you're saying. This is going to drive me nuts. What the, and why is my camera? So it switched my camera on me. Let me go to camera. It's not, it's only reading my FaceTime now. Let's see.
I don't know if I can switch to my phone.
Okay.
Oh, he can't hear me. I don't know if that would work.
Yeah. I'm going to try something.
Okay. Okay. I'm hearing an echo of myself.
Okay, does that
Self-echoing.
You guys, sorry for the mess in my studio you're going to see now.
I hear an echo.
So it looks like everything that I even do. I'm sorry that this is going on here. Let's see. If I plug back in, allow accessory to connect. Okay, hold on. This might fix it.
Test.
This could fix it.
Testing.
Let me just do my settings one more time.
Testing.
I want that one. Audio.
I don't use Lum. Okay. Here we
All
go.
right. It sounds like we're back.
Yay.
I apologize for that. I have no clue what that was. First of all, Donnie, thanks for your patience.
Oh, not
Secondly, audience, thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
And staying around. I got to tell you, I don't know what happens if I show you my setup here. It's kind of nothing but crazy wires. I have my laptop in front of me, which is
sounds very familiar. Don't worry about that.
So, but just to give you a quick explanation, I got my laptop in front of me, which is what I'm looking at you on. I use my Cintiq to look at the images I share on the screen. And then I got another monitor where I have other information. But to have that all hooked up, I have a giant hub with a bunch of wires going to the hub. And I have different audio settings and all this other stuff. And I've never seen that happen. Again, I apologize. Last time, yeah, go ahead. What?
I started to say anything that could have gone wrong has happened to me in the 27 years I was teaching, so don't worry about it.
Yes. Let me open up some of the strip stuff so we can talk about that. Just in case.
I can stay around longer if you need me to. That's not a problem.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, I understand. Open in Photoshop. Okay, let's start.
I don't remember what I was explaining to you.
We were talking a little bit about the history of Lum and Abner, but we just there was a picture of like a general store was the last picture we were going to look at or something. But
okay, it might have been the painting.
Yeah, it was a painting.
Yeah. That was a college painting that I did right after I got really interested in Lum and Abner, and that was a project for a painting class, a watercolor class. And I was part of a group called the National Lum and Abner Society for several years. And anyone that visits my website you can find all of our publications there. And that's where I met a lot of the people that worked with Lum and Abner, and that just fueled my interest. And then that's the painting, 1982, for a class I took at the University of Texas at Tyler. And that was the first Lum and Abner art I ever did. And it was a bit more realistic. But it was several years later, it was about 12 years ago, that I had the opportunity to start a comic strip based on Lum and Abner.
And before we get into the comic strip, what was it about Lum and Abner that made you say, hey, listen, I love these guys this much that, when the opportunity came to do a comic strip, you're like, I'm doing a comic strip on these guys?
Well, first of all, I love the show. I love the old radio shows. I grew up hearing my parents talk about it, uncles and aunts talk about it, because they were kids and young adults in the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Yes.
They were very familiar with it. The characters were from Arkansas, which is where my dad's family is from. And the dialect they use, it sounds like people I grew up around. Sounds like my uncles and my aunts and my grandparents and so forth. And I just enjoyed it. It reminded me of the what they call the corn coms now, the Andy Griffith Show, the Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres. And in fact, there are actual connections. Those Lum and Abner did inspire those programs in many ways. And some of the people who wrote for Lum and Abner actually wrote for some of those programs in later years on television. So I just enjoyed it. And being an officer in the National Lum and Abner Society, which was a historical old-time radio organization, I learned so much about it. And I did some art for the publication. Periodically, I would do logos or illustrations, or even once we did one story in comic book form in 1989. And boy, I was rusty. I wanted to be a cartoonist, but all those years I was teaching. And but it gave me a chance to get some work done. And after I retired from the local school system, I was interviewed about Lum and Abner from a fellow who ran a web-based news service called First Arkansas News. And he said, my goal is to have an online newspaper. This is in 2011. And I said, what about a comic strip? He said, what are you talking about? I said, what about comics? I didn't know the term web comic at the time. And so since he was a Lum and Abner fan and I was a Lum and Abner fan, I said, why don't we try Lum and Abner? He said, is that even possible? How could we get the rights? I said, well, I just happen to know a few people. So I spoke to Chet Locke Jr., who was Lum's son, and got his permission. And I drew some model sheets and samples. And in June of 2011, we started the strip every Sunday in Sunday page format, so to speak. But that's how it started, and started online, and it's in a whopping 3 newspapers now. But so I'm not getting rich.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're in 3 more newspapers than the Wiz is in, so you're.
But it's definitely enjoyable. And well, it qualified me. I see you have the image up there. I actually qualified for the National Cartoonists Society, which was a dream come true. And then Texas Cartoonists is our chapter for the state of Texas. And I was able to do that in 2015 is when I joined those organizations, and honored that they accepted me as such.
No, that's great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That is one of my goals in life. Just I'm friends with quite a few people who are members, and it's just I think it's just fantastic, to grow up loving these people who entertained you in newspapers, books, TV shows, whatever it was, and to be able to do what they're doing and have the honor to belong to the same organization, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt about it.
Yeah.
And luckily I knew people like Hy Eisman. Hy was actually, I spent time with him in 2009 at, it was actually a Popeye convention in Chester, Illinois. And George Wildman was also there. And Hy said, why are you still teaching? I said, well, pay the bills. He said, you're a cartoonist. And it was like, I felt like I was knighted.
Excuse me. Yeah.
He just said, you are a cartoonist. And it was, it just hit me right there. I thought, okay, thank you. And it just made me more than ever want to get into the business of drawing comics.
Yeah. That's great to have someone like that say that to you.
It was almost unbelievable. It just blew me away.
This is nice.
This was speaking to a group of junior high students at my alma mater, Spring Hill Junior High. And I'm not sure if those are my drawings, or I think those are quick sketches I did, and some of them may have been student sketches. But,
I think they're student sketches. Let me zoom in on it.
It could be.
Yeah, they look.
It could be. They could have been mimicking what I was doing. I don't remember. But that was about 6 or 7 years ago. And I went there every year for a while and spoke to several classes, and that was an experience. It's almost like going back to the classroom, but it was fun. It was fun.
That's great.
and a few of them even wrote letters.
Oh, that's nice.
Got a couple of fan letters and emails. That was nice. That's one of the strips. That was the first Christmas strip. Lum and Abner had a Christmas program that was very successful, and they first broadcasted in 1933, and it got so much mail that they were requested to repeat it in 1934, and they repeated it annually straight through into their last season on the radio. And so that was a painting that I did, which was based on an intaglio print, which I did in one of my graduate classes. I repainted it using acrylic for the first Christmas strip, for the Lum and Abner comic strip. So that one's a little different. I've only done 2 or 3 actual painted strips.
Yeah.
But it basically tells the story behind the Christmas episode. And I don't know what other... I know I sent you some other examples just kind of at random.
Yeah, we're going to go through them right here.
Oh, and that's one I did a few years later. Just answering questions, basically, who are Lum and Abner? I did a series called Ends and Odds, rather than Odds and Ends. Had Lum and Abner posing as if they're posing for an old style, photograph. And it just answers some of the questions and gives you some little facts about Lum and Abner through the years.
No, it's gorgeous work. I love it. I like your style a lot.
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot to me. And that's again that's done traditionally. That was inked with a Gillette 107 or 170, whatever it is. I used it for 170. That came about because I asked Bud Sagendorf what he used. I knew George used Winsor Newton No. 3 brush, and I was sitting there just going crazy trying to brush ink. I said, I can't do this. And so I asked Bud Sagendorf on the phone. I said, well, how do you ink? And he said, I used a Gillette 170. So okay. So I wrote that down, and
you went out.
Art supply stores. Do you have a and they said, a what? And I finally ordered it through Texas Art Supply out of Houston, and learned how to ink with that. But the problem is, I never had a teacher, even though I was an art major. They didn't specialize in this kind of art, and so I never really was taught how to ink. How to hold it. So I just had to figure all that out on my own. Whether I'm doing it right or wrong, I don't know.
And I'm sure there wasn't like YouTube or anything at the time.
No.
Yeah.
There were a few things. I remember I had a Batman comic book, maybe 1969, that had a text page on how a comic book page is done. No illustrations that I remember, but it's basically just text. Here's how we do it.
Yeah.
And I tried to follow that. And then in the early 70s, a guy who became a good friend, Nick Cuddy, was assistant editor at Charlton Comics. And they published a little comic book artist writer's guide.
I think I have a digital copy of that somewhere.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Sutton did the cover. And a lot of the other, Steve Ditko did some work in there. Or they used some of his work. But Charlton was looked down upon in the 70s by a lot of comics fans who were into DC and Marvel and all that. But I found them fascinating because their artists were allowed to use their own style. I mean, they didn't pigeonhole them into a house style. And so I learned more looking at that art than I did from a lot of the other things, because I saw, hey, you don't have to draw the face this way. You can draw it like this guy did. And but that little handbook was just a little miniature encyclopedia. I just devoured that thing and learned quite a bit from it. And then George would tell me things. He would say, hey, that drawing you sent me that's not bad, but why don't you try this? So then I wrote a letter and said, will you hire me? I was 15. He says, you're not quite ready for that. So I moped around for 3 or 4 days, But anyway, I learned a lot that way.
I'm gonna have to look. I think it might be on my like Amazon, book, like digital books that I own. I think that's where I'm gonna have to look for that.
Yeah, that's a really neat. I don't know that I have the one that was reissued. I may have it. I've got a copy or two of the other. That was, I believe that's the 10th anniversary strip.
Yes.
In 2011, Lum and Abner celebrated their 90th birthday, 90th anniversary as a radio show. And we did a long series telling the history of Lum and Abner. And then as soon as that finished, it butted right up to the 10th anniversary of the comic strip. So I did that as my take on their 10 years. And of course, we never see Lum. We know something's about to happen to Lum. So I just left that to the reader's imagination.
This is just great. I love it. I love the poses. I love the look of him falling, slipping.
Yeah, I'm more of a Bigfoot, what George Wildman always called a Bigfoot cartoonist. I like the humor stuff, and I like to exaggerate.
Yeah.
And so that was fun. Oh, that was had a series in which, more of a dramatic series, and Dr. Joe Oliver played a character who comes back into the series. The burly-looking guy there was voiced in the audio by Al Bowl, who is also a cartoonist from Bossier City, which is part of the Shreveport-Bossier City area in Louisiana, which is about an hour from me. And so he voiced that character there. But that was a jewel thief that Lum and the other character helped to trap, and then he breaks jail, and he's gunning for Lum and this other character. And so here's Lum. Lum's already been shot once, and he captures him by leaping off a hill right onto his shoulders and becomes the hero.
It's amazing. It's just good. I love this stuff here.
And thank you. That was this was a story in which sometimes I like to do really big full panels like that.
Yeah.
I don't have an editor that says you can't do that, or you have to lose the top third or this tier or what have you. But this was when two of the supporting characters, Cedric and Mousy, invent a peanut butter soda pop, peanut butter flavor. And it started with peanut butter juice, which everyone surprisingly liked. And everyone goes wild over this peanut butter soda pop. And the business about chunk style was Cedric's favorite kind of peanut butter. Cedric was obsessed with peanut butter. And the guy down in the lower right corner there is the local shyster named Squire Skimp. And he wanted to be part of their successful business. And they said, "We're not going to have you. You're a crook. Get out of here." So he's going to get revenge. And he's typing fake affidavits of people who tried chunk style and got choked on it. And I haven't read the story since I did it, but if I remember right, they go to court. That's terrible. I forget my own stories. They go to court, fight it out, and one thing and another. And so there's always some comedy in there with the drama as well.
That's great, though. I mean, that's what you need in these strips. And especially if you're going for that feel of an old style radio show, it's coming, or at least that's where the history is at. What happens, because I've listened to old radio shows. I actually enjoy doing that. I've watched a lot of the old, like a lot of my influence in humor comes from like Abbott and Costello and outside of comic. It's things like that I grew up on, watching Buster
classic,
Keaton, all the classic,
timeless,
vaudevillian,
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah, all that stuff. Love them all.
The Three Stooges. Yeah, the Marx Brothers. I love them.
Oh, love the Marx Brothers. Big fan of them.
They asked everyone in the NCS to do a 100th birthday for Charles Schulz celebration. And so this was my version of that, with the Peanuts cast having a little party inside the Jot 'em Down store. I'm not sure who that is looking through the window. Let me get my glasses on.
That looks like the announcer at the top.
That is Dick Huddleston, yes. Dick Huddleston was a real person And in fact, right now, the original store in the real town of Pine Ridge, Arkansas, which houses the Lum and Abner Museum, is up for sale. The people who have owned and managed it for decades are having age and health issues, and they're trying to sell it. So I hope somebody is able to buy that and preserve the history that's in there, because it is an actual museum. But these kids in the lower right corner are two kids in the Lum and Abner, the first Lum and Abner movie.
Okay.
Washington is the little boy. He's the African-American boy, and Jimmy is the Caucasian boy. If that's even the term anymore. I'm not trying to be politically incorrect, but they were good friends in the first Lum and Abner movie, which was unique for 1940.
Oh, yeah.
And it allowed me to do some integration in the comic strip, and bring some younger characters in. So I adapted them from the first movie of Lum and Abner, and then Snoopy is up there with Lum and Abner's cat Geraldine. So I got to have the cast sort of mixed together here.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And I gotta say, your take on the Peanuts characters is phenomenal. Every artist looks at them and says, "Oh, they're easy to draw," and then they try them, and they're the hardest. Yeah. Some of the hardest things to draw.
Well, of course I used reference, but I didn't trace it. I made a definite point of carefully drawing each one out, and trying to get it right before I did the final ink version. They are based on referenced images that I found, but and I don't remember on the music. I don't know what that music is that I put in there, but I'd have to try to. That may be Happy Birthday. I don't know. I'll do these things, and then I don't look at them and I forget about it. But anyway, the original to this was sent to the Charles Schulz Museum and accepted. Nice. And I have no idea. I hope it's on display somewhere, but it was nice that they wanted it, and that was an honor to me to do that.
That was that.
So I don't have that original at all.
Yeah.
But
wow. So I accidentally pulled out the next. Put it back in here. You got a Thanksgiving.
That was a Thanksgiving image, and that was also the original was in an auction for the National Cartoonists Society. Every year, usually they'll ask the members to submit something to be put in their auction. I did a Popeye piece that was in there. I don't think I sent you that image, but the strange thing about that was after the auction, it was actually an older piece because I was working another job and didn't have time to do anything new. I found one from 1999 that I did for the Popeye fan club, and it had the 1929 version of Popeye. It had several different heads, as they looked by different artists. And I thought, well, I'll just send this. And I sent it, and it sold. And about 2 years later, someone said, did you know your art is in an Italian book? So what? And sure enough, it's printed in an issue of, I'm trying to think of the Italian Popeye title.
Oh.
Braccio de... I can't think of it. It's in Italian. I think it stands for arm of iron or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the Italian edition of Popeye printed that page.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's wild. Things like this happen, and I never dreamed they would happen.
Yeah.
But
and then there's another. Oh, I brought that in before. Okay.
Yeah, that was the
painting. All right, let me just open up. I'm going to just stop the share for 1 second so I can take a moment to open up the next set of pictures, which is the radio show. Now, you mentioned earlier that you started the radio show because you have some friends that are blind. But yes. I love the connection, because I never heard the term a strip show, I think you used earlier when they were talking about it. And I've listened to old radio shows online that were shorts like that, but I never heard that term.
I think it was just an industry term.
Okay.
Very likely return.
And to say that you're, or not say, but to see that you're kind of keeping that alive,
Mm-hmm.
With doing an audio show based on the comics you put out every week. Now, do your let's I'm just going to go to the first picture first. Does the audio comics versions come out the same time the strip comes out, or is it?
Yes.
Okay. So you like, how far in advance are you writing the comics that you could do the audio shows?
About a month in advance, because I used to do all the voices myself,
Mm-hmm.
and since then I've had other folks join in, and so I have to get the copy to them so they can record their voices. And some people, Dr. Oliver has quite an elaborate professional setup that he does his announcing on. Other people are using, um, Android or smartphones to record. And there's Dr. Oliver right there. That's actually when we did a program together that we produced an anniversary of the Halloween marathon. We did that for Yesterday USA and recreated the program that I'd heard 40 years earlier. But that was one of the times we were together, and that was a more professional setup. And then other people, as I say, just use their iPhones or smartphones to record their audio, and then they email it to me. And some of it's amazing how good it sounds.
We got some casts to look at here.
That's that was when we were recording a series story called Lum and Abner, which was written by Tim Hollis, who is one of the co-founders of the National Lum and Abner Society. We were actually using vintage microphones there from the early to mid 1950s. Those are the ones, the mics we used on all of our old time radio conventions, and so we use those just sort of to be authentic, I guess you could say. But that was done in a different style. That story, which was a lot of fun. It mimicked the style of Chester Locke, who played Lum, who was also a cartoonist himself.
Oh, really?
And only it was a dream sequence, as I recall, of Lum and Abner as gnomes. And it had some storybook tie-ins. Squire Skimp was Humpty Dumpty, who's down there in the lower left corner there. And Grandpappy Spears was the Crooked Old Man, and Cedric Weehunt was Simple Simon. And I visited Tim in Alabama one year, and we recorded all that stuff in real time, which made it a lot easier to edit.
I got to say, the artwork surrounding it is gorgeous. It really gives me that classic, like 1950s, almost like a children's book.
Yeah.
Children's comic or something.
That's what I was shooting for.
Yeah.
Like the old Jingle Jangle or some of those. Yeah. That's what I was looking for. To me, some of the best comics in the world were the old Dell comics from the 1950s. I love those.
I'm not too much of a modern age comic fan these days.
I'm not either.
I do like a lot of the independents that are out. That, like, when I go to the stores, there's only a couple of like mainstream titles I might buy, but I tend to look at the Golden, the Silver Age books. Those are where I like to.
That's
purchase.
me. Yeah.
I love this stuff.
That's Sam Brown, and Sam does the voice of Dick Huddleston. And this all started at our old conventions when we would recreate Lum and Abner strips. Sam and I have been friends for over 40 years, and we became friends because of Lum and Abner. We were both fans of listening to the show. For years and years, it was being rerun on AM radio stations primarily, and a few FM radio stations in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even beyond. And he was hearing it in his area of Southern Illinois. I was hearing it in East Texas, and we somehow connected. This is before the internet, so it's amazing that we actually all got together, but we all became friends and founded the National Lum and Abner Society. And had met a lot of people that worked with Lum and Abner. We didn't get to meet Lum and Abner themselves; they had passed away. But we met a lot of people that I don't know the names. I don't think the names would mean much unless you're into old time radio. But people like Willard Waterman and Jerry Hausner and Dick Beals, who was a cartoon voice actor, Dallas McKinnon, who did a lot of cartoon voices. They may be names you're not familiar with, but some of them were also animation actors. So it was great to get to meet them.
That's cool. That is great. I mean, like I said, I knew about your strip. I read your strip when I see it, but that's why I'm kind of behind, because, social media analog, or analytics, I mean, keep things away sometimes. But,
I have a subscription that is free that will send it to your email. So
I should do that so I don't forget.
Plug.
That was going to come up very soon, the plugs. But yes.
I'm going against your protocol here.
No, not at all. That's how I just always end my show with tell us how we can find you. But yeah, no, you plug away. Seriously. You could have done it the first thing. I should have asked you.
That's okay. That was a strip where it was part of the history going up to almost the present time, and I was showing little photos of the people who have been part of my audio cast. They're down there in the bottom part, and to avoid leaving someone out, if you can see those on the screen, I'll let you read those yourselves. But those are all folks from various parts of the country who have sent voice recordings to me. Even Nick Cuddy down there in the bottom right, who has sadly passed away. Michael Ambrose sadly has passed away, but one of them, I believe Larry Gassman is down there, who's one of the blind friends who did voiced a character for me. I had a composite character named Larry John Walden, who was based on Larry Gassman, John Gassman, and Walden Hughes, three men who were blind, who were huge old-time radio historians and hosts. In fact, they're the ones who I'm going to be on when I leave this show. I'll be on their show tonight. And we're talking Lum and Abner on that show. And amazing gentlemen. And so Larry John Walden was a hero in one story who is able to solve a mystery because he's blind. It's a hypnotist. Well, I just gave the story away. Now nobody will read it. But anyway, there's a hypnotist who's an evil guy that has everyone hypnotized, except Larry John is in the room. Well, he can't see his little, twirling watch or whatever, and all he can just hear. Well, he knows the trick. He knows what's going on, and he's able to follow this guy by the sound of his ticking watch. So Larry John is the hero in that episode.
Great story.
That was a fun story to do. And Larry voiced the character for me. But yeah, it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I just read a piece on here, and I want to say this is awesome right here that you got into a piece of Dick Tracy.
Yeah, we did a crossover, and I may have sent you that image. That came about through my friendship with Mike Curtis, who's the writer of Dick Tracy, and at the time it was Joe Staten, who was another hero. Another guy I got to work with, just doing coloring, and he also illustrated a story I wrote. But
nice.
I was invited to. First, we did the crossover, and then they based a character on me. Believe it or not. So they didn't use my name, but I was a character in the Dick Tracy strip. And then they invited me to write a 2-week minute mystery. So I actually got to write the Dick Tracy strip, one of my all-time favorites. Wow. And
that's great.
Yeah, those kind of things you just think, is this really happening?
Yeah, I actually have on my wall above my drawing table an autograph from Joe of the Dick Tracy piece.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a print of Dick Tracy that he signed for me, but it's I'm such a fan of both Dick Tracy and Joe's work.
Part of my pay was I got the original art. Yeah, I got Joe's art from the story I wrote, and it just I just have to sit and study it. It's just great.
That's fantastic. That is awesome. I think I honestly I wouldn't have accepted. I don't know if I would have taken money. Just give me the artwork, just it's just it's
the artwork was more. Yeah, it was more artwork than money. I mean,
yeah.
I got paid, but the artwork to me is far more valuable.
That's how I would feel too. Wow.
And I think about being a kid and reading the old Sunday comics, and I would save Dick Tracy for last. That was my all-time favorite, and that would be the last thing I read. And I never thought I'd get that opportunity, but it's been great.
That's amazing, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I mean, you've been doing this since, well, you've been drawing Lum and Abner since 2011, I think you said you started.
Yeah.
And before that, you've done things here and there. So, but I mean, you've basically been doing this regularly for 12 years now. Right. And I mean, the career that you have had the ability to know the artists that you've gotten to know, meeting your heroes, working with them. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better.
It is. It's a dream come true for sure.
Yeah, it's amazing. I am so. First, I'm happy that you've been able to have this career. I'm thrilled for you. I mean, I love when I get to see artists, hit their dreams and things. And not everyone could do it. And to see it, live with you here, it's amazing. I'm so glad I got to talk to you and know you, get to know you better and your work better.
You.
And
I'm also glad.
And speaking of your work, where can we find it and how do we get it?
Just look for lumandabnercomics.com. lumandabnercomics.com.
And on there, we can subscribe to get it directly to our email.
Right.
That is awesome. Do you have any collections and books that we can find anywhere?
I do. I have the first 3 years, and I haven't had those available. I had to completely redo my website. I lost the provider junked everything. They changed the format, and I lost all my archive pages, and so I moved over to WordPress. And I just don't have that organized yet, but I do have a few. The first 3 years are in sort of magazine format, 52 weeks. But that's just something I haven't had time to get back to. I've had other jobs going and other activities, and one of these days.
It's but they're available. Like if we were to go to your website and purchase, or
they will be again.
They will.
I don't have it set up for that, but I will one of these days.
Well, I'll tell you, you got to let me know when that happens because I do want to purchase. I love reading comic strip collections. I like to go just go through the book, put a bookmark in, put it away for a week or so, and then come back hang out with some friends again like that. I have my whole bookshelf on the other side I keep looking back to is primarily comic strip collections. And there was one book that I was going to pull out, and I don't know if I can get to. Hold on, let me get it. I want to show it to you real quick because I know you got to get going soon. Hold on.
While he's gone, I wish I could think of something devious to do. I better not do that. Oh, he's back.
Okay, so
you didn't hear me. You had your cans off.
So one of the things that I always liked to do when I was younger, I don't do it as much anymore, but I used to collect old cartooning books. I love the old style of cartooning, all that fun stuff.
I have some over here. I can't reach them right now.
Have you ever seen this book, The Secrets of Professional Cartooning by Ken Muse?
I have not.
Okay. And this is one of the things that made me think about when you spoke about asking Bud what he used to ink with. Like I just happened to open Peanuts here. Okay. As you go down to which section? Over here, there would be a little section that would say the name, the art school he went to, the ink he uses, the Bristol, the pen point for drawing, pen point for lettering, the brush, the pencil he draws in, the type of eraser he uses, and
Wow.
method of working. So I would be able to go in and look like here. Oh, here's Bud. Okay. So it says he didn't go to art school, didn't go to college. He uses Pelican ink, 3-ply Strathmore high surface Bristol. His pen for drawing is the Gillette 170, the 290, and the 303. Yes.
Yeah, the Gillette.
The Gillette. Is that how you say it properly?
That's how I've always heard it.
Okay, I've always called it Gillette, but I don't know. I'm not good with that. Brush any size, pen for lettering, Speedball A5, pencil turquoise HB, eraser needed. How do you work? All the time. Method of working. Bud roughs in on the Bristol, then tightens up with pencil, and then inks for the final result. A lot of hard drawing. But yeah, so it's like I got to learn about how different artists got to work in this book.
Yeah.
And it was, and there's these great things. I guess this is Ken's work. I don't know where I'm at. But he talks about just very simplistic drawing stuff. And these are the type of books I learned from.
Yeah.
One of the things, and people say it when they look at The Wiz, because it is a bit Hanna-Barbera influenced, but all my influences would come from things like that. Like when I draw it, I think of that old school, type of stuff. So it's amazing. But I thought you'd like that book. When you brought up Bud, I was like,
I can't believe I've seen that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up because I know you need to get on to another show. First off, I want to thank you again for coming on. Please give the website again.
It's lumandabnercomics.com. You spell it out, Lum, Lum, and abnercomics.com.
All right, and you could subscribe.
And we have a Facebook group. Go to Facebook and look for Lum and Abner comic strip. There's also Lum and Abner radio show fan club, and then I myself am on Facebook. So awesome. Give those a look because we always promote the strips, and you can go back all 12 years of the strip, and I try to be advertiser supported. That's something else I need to work on. I haven't charged my sponsors in about 3 years, ever since the website disaster 2 years ago. But I'm going to get caught up on all that soon. But I haven't stopped producing the strip, and I'm up to number 630 something.
That's amazing.
637, amazing. I think is. In fact, I've got to get busy tomorrow. I've got to get 2 done this week. So,
all right. Do you mind hanging out backstage for a second? Just in the back off. Yeah, just hang out for a moment.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm going to just do my wrap up, and then I'll just come back and talk to you off the air real quick.
You bet. Thank you very much. Thank you again.
Thank you for coming on, man. It really was a pleasure chatting with you. Really did enjoy it.
I've enjoyed it greatly. It's been an honor for me.
All right. I'll talk to you in a moment.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys, specifically those who stayed during our little audio incident. I just wanted, again, thank Donnie for coming on. Tell you guys, don't forget his website, lumandabner.com. Subscribe on there so you get it sent to your email so you don't miss it like I've been doing. Check out his Facebook groups. Just type in Lum and Abner and you'll get the and I know it sounds like I always say a B. It's Lum, Lum. I don't. It's just how I sound. Check out the stuff. Next week I have another great guest coming on. I might actually be doing some live streaming later this week or this weekend. So feel free to tune in to look for that to come on to Facebook and every place, YouTube and every place I'm at. I really do have some fun stuff planned. and I got some stuff I'm going to be announcing really soon. In the meantime, please make sure, where is it? At the Wiz Comic, both on Facebook and Instagram. All right. Every Wednesday by 9 a.m. Between 8 and 9 a.m. it gets posted. Really depends when I wake up. All right, guys. So I will see you all later. You guys have a great day. Thanks for tuning in again, and I'll see you all soon. Bye, guys.